Thank you to those of you who are joining us and those of you who will join us either now or in the future. We're glad to have you for this live stream where we're meeting with a whole bunch of wonderful students here at the U, also with Doc Salmons, the leader of this posse. And today what we wanted to really do is talk about what life's like at the U, answer some of the questions that you've answered or asked over our social media these past couple weeks as we've been preparing for this, and really kind of help you get excited for college and answer questions that a lot of you don't ever have a chance to get answered. So hopefully this is a really good resource for those of you watching, and we're excited to get into this. It's a really fun crew that we have today. So as mentioned before, all the questions we're going to talk about were suggested by you on our social media pages. And if you're tuning in, there's a chat where you can also drop questions, and we might be able to get to those as well. We'll see. But, you know, we're not here to hear me talk. We're here to listen to everyone else talk about their awesome experiences. So we'll jump right into it, and we'll start with one of the first questions. What do private lessons look like at the university level? And Michael, we'll give that over to you.
All right. Private lessons at the university level. I'd say they're definitely a little different than you might be used to in high school, a little more intense, and definitely have a lot more responsibility on yourself to prepare beforehand. But the biggest difference, I think, is the amount of time you spend specifically on technique, as well as individual bars of measures or bars of pieces as well. You really dig into the specifics of what you're playing, and beyond that, your teacher will have a lot more insights for those individual things. Aside from that, what you're going to be doing outside is a lot more technique work than you might be used to. I know that was the case for me. I probably did several hours a day of technique work when I came in because I found that was severely lacking in my own playing. But you know, you will be surprised how fast you improve as a player in those lessons and how much material can be packed into 1 hour. I think that was one of the biggest things that surprised me as well.
Michael, do you learn some like practice techniques and?
Yeah, so you practice technique as well as a lot of repertoire. I think that the volume of repertoire I learned in my lessons increased dramatically between high school and college.
And Ashton, it might be good to introduce everybody, maybe.
Cool. And something else that I kind of want to talk about is the semester changes. I know some people probably aren't super familiar with that, with private instructors. Anyone want to kind of cover that a little bit for us?
Are you asking me, Ashton?
Yeah, because I know like with the like before you're in college, when you have a private instructor, you kind of just have one that you sit on. Here in
yeah,
a little bit different.
So we have a number of faculty. Myself, I'm the percussion area head. We have Keith Carrick, who's the principal percussionist at the symphony. Danny Soulier teaches specifically timpani. Danny's the principal timpanist down at the Oakshire Temple Square, also plays with the symphony. And Kelly Wallace is our drum set teacher. So students actually get to see all four of us within their degree program. I see all the freshmen, myself and Professor Carrick usually take the freshmen. Students will spend a semester on timpani with Danny. They'll typically spend a semester of drum set too with Kelly. And what I love about that is the diversity of our faculty, and the students get all four of us and kind of our specialties, and they get to put that together in a really creative, artistic, and pedagogical way. So students sort of migrate throughout the degree program, and as they get older, especially in the junior senior year, they really start to have some other choices. Some students might choose to go back for a semester of timpani, or they might go to another semester of drum set. They might come to me for some musical theater work or some non-Western music work. So they get really, really specific to students' own artistic goals. So that's kind of how the lessons work with all the faculty and how we work together.
Very cool. Very diverse environment, which is very helpful. Someone learning about percussion. Cool. Thank you for those answers there. The next question that we have is, what does the typical life of a percussionist at the University of Utah look like? You know, classes, academics, all that sort of thing. Olivia, do you want to get that for us?
Yeah, and just before I answer that question, my name is Olivia, and I'm in my second semester of my sophomore year here at the University of Utah. I'm in percussion performance. Here at the university, you can study two different tracks. In the studio, you can do percussion performance or music education. And so everybody you see here is kind of diverse, and that affects what your typical day looks like. But a typical day for me, depending on the day, and also pre-COVID is different than post-COVID or during COVID. But there's a lot of classes. There's a pretty normal class load, I would say. You take theory and oral skills, and if you're an education major, you're taking like brass studies and string study classes and things like that. So there's that, and you have to make time to do homework and finish your assignments just like normal school. But you also have to make time for practicing. And pre-COVID, we would have lots of rehearsals as well with large ensembles, with wind ensemble as well as symphonic band. Now we just have small ensemble rehearsals with percussion ensemble, and those are structured like class times. And so, yeah, typical day for me is usually school, like classes in the morning, practice in the afternoon, and practice in the evening, or going to concerts.
Very cool.
If I could add, Olivia did mention like a distinct difference between percussion performance and music education. And as someone in the music education realm, a typical day for me wouldn't be that much different from someone in the performance era, just that I have classes that are more emphasized on education, and there's some semesters in the degree like student teaching that's going to be a little different. But for a typical semester, private lessons and practice time is very similar for me to a percussion performance major.
Very cool. Very similar tracks, even though it's a different different degree. Well, Preston, since we have you talking already, we had some questions about the marching here at the U, and you're someone who knows quite a bit about that. So I was wondering if you could answer that and also give us a little bit of your background there as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Preston Gilbert. I'm a senior here at the U, first semester of my senior year. I've been in the marching band all 4 years. I did drum for a couple years. I did tenors for a year. I did some teaching this past year with the way COVID worked out. And I a few years of student leadership online. And I believe someone asked about scheduling and commitment in the marching Utes. Basically, the schedule on a typical semester is going to be like 4 days out of your 5-day school week. And it's just going to be 2 hours per rehearsal. And usually the day off just depends on the week, and you get notified before that week. It also consists of band camp, which is 2 or 3 weeks before the school year starts, pretty much right before the first day of school, 3 weeks. So like kind of beginning, middle of August is when it starts. And that's 6 days a year week, sometimes 9 to 9, sometimes 9 to 5, differs based on the week and based on how much we have to get done. That's another thing is we rehearse till we get done what we want to get done. And if that's earlier than the scheduled time, then we're good. With COVID, it was a little different. We just rehearsed to rehearse basically. And we're already done with our marching season by now. But in a typical season, it usually goes to December, maybe the beginning of January with the bowl game, and there are a few outside the state trips in a typical year. Commitment, other than rehearsals, usually involves just football games and any other miscellaneous gigs usually happen on Saturday nights, and that schedule is given to you in advance. And it is quite a commitment, but it's not too much of a commitment that you shouldn't be able to do it with your other class loads or anything like that. A lot of concern is like, can I be a music major and be in the marching band at the same time? And absolutely you can. Like half the line, I believe, is music majors, and the other half isn't. So if you're not going to be a music major, you still want to be on the drum line. Absolutely.
Yeah, Preston, can I hop in there for a second?
Yeah.
And I would just add that as the season goes, we tend to rehearse less. So usually by the time we get to late October or early November, we're practicing 1 day a week, especially if there's no game. So it just kind of varies upon whatever the football schedule is. But generally, when we don't have a performance, we're definitely easing up on the practice time for sure. So we try to give that time back. So it's very flexible. Based on
and typically, if the bowl game happens like early January or late December, that usually won't cut into your winter break at all, unless it's during winter break. And even then, it'll be like, a couple days. It won't be like, oh, we have to practice for a week because we have a bowl game. Like, we're just like a glorified pep band at a bowl game, basically.
Right. The practice all season feeds into it. And I know I started with Preston for this, and appreciate Doc jumping in. And something else that I kind of wanted to talk about. I know for myself, when I came to school, deciding whether or not to do the marching band was a decision moment, because you're aware of in high school, it's a large time commitment, and college is going to be another jump. For someone considering that, and this is open to anyone who has experience there, what would you tell to someone about whether or not to join the drumline, the marching Utes? Any opinions on those?
Can I answer that one?
Yeah, go for it.
So when I was in high school, I did drumline and marching band all 4 years. And so I was pretty excited to do marching band in college, even though I knew it was going to be different because we don't have the competitions and all of that. But one thing that I really appreciate about drumline is the quality of instruction we get while in rehearsal, because that instruction also connects with the instruction we're getting in the percussion studio, in our private lessons and all of those things. They connect. And so marching band is a fun way to also get more rehearsal time, more playing time, more practice time. And so you hear a lot of times like students in the studio, well, I don't want to do drumline because it's a huge time commitment. But there are a lot of perks about it. Not just you make really great friends. You get to go to the football games and participate in all of that. But you also, like, my chops have gotten a lot better through drumline, and it would have if I was just I don't think I would have been able to make that big of progress if I didn't do it. So that's the reason why I really, really push for people to do drumline at the U.
Yeah, cool.
Can I hop on that? Because Mona mentioned something really pedagogically important, and that is there's a Venn diagram of percussion. And yeah, there's different aspects, keyboard, vibes, drum set, world percussion, hand percussion, marching percussion, rudimental percussion, this vast world of percussion, but there's a big Venn diagram. And I think that we do a great job here at the U in teaching the connections with all of that. And, I think Preston said, half the studio is on the drum line. A good portion of the studio is. And what I would say is the drum line is the most visible aspect of the program in many ways. So we do put a lot of effort into the quality of it, not just the product, but the experience and the pedagogy and the teaching that goes along with it. And we have a blast. So
yeah, it is a lot of fun in the drumline. So, and yeah, it goes straight into everything that you learn at the U. Well, Doc, since we've got you talking, we don't want you to stop. We had a question come up about scholarships and what's available to us here as percussion, performance, or education majors. So if you could touch on that for a little bit for us, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, really quickly. I mean, and everybody's different, so it's, I won't dwell on this, but there's basically three main pools. There's the academic pool, and that's based on your grades, ACT score, SAT score. I don't know what the current guidelines are, but that's just go on the university's website. There's also the School of Music scholarship, which is based on your audition into the studio. It's a merit-based award. And then there's the Drumline Scholarship, which is also based on auditions. Those happen in May. School of Music auditions happen in late January, early February. That information, all that's laid out, the requirements and all of that. It's not too much. It's not too little. It's sort of right there in the median lane there. I don't believe in overworking students, and I can tell a lot by what a student plays in just a few minutes. So I try not to make it too overwhelming on the audition process for the School of Music or the Drumline. But School of Music happens in late January, early February, and then the Drumline auditions happen in May. And this year the plan is to do it all by video submission. So people will just submit their videos, and we'll probably schedule, not probably, we will schedule a little Zoom time for each student so that we get to know them and they get to know us. They can ask some questions just on FaceTime. That's a big part of the audition too, is what somebody's a good fit. They got a good personality. They're coachable. They fit into the vibe of the studio, and it's important for the students to also get that sense from the faculty as well. We want students to want to come here, to feel comfortable with us, and all of that. So a little combination of video submission and a little Zoom interview that will be scheduled when you sign up for the auditions. So does that answer that?
Yeah. So just to kind of clarify, overarch it, the scholarships within the performance and education programs for percussion are largely based on audition results within the marching band or the studio.
Yep, merit-based, and then the academic is also merit-based.
Right. Cool. And since we're on the topic of auditions, I want to kind of jump to Maddie, if you don't mind introducing yourself, and then also you've auditioned recently, and to get into the program, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of that experience and maybe some helpful tips with that process.
Yeah, so my name's Maddie. I am a freshman here at the U. This is my first semester. So fortunately, I was able to audition before COVID actually started. But I actually started preparing my piece at the beginning of my senior year, which I feel like was a good time for me since I had 4 pieces to prepare. I really wanted as much time as I could, and I actually picked them out in the summer. So a good advice is if you haven't started working on them to get going on those. But for me, it was really nice. I showed up at the School of Music, and it was a very relaxed environment. I thought it was going to be like really high stress. But when I got there were a couple students that were actually in the studio sitting outside of the room. And it was nice to like meet students that was going to be working with before I even auditioned. And they were all so outgoing and really just encouraged me for my audition. And then when I went to the audition room, it was just Salmons and Carrick, and it was just a very relaxed environment. I just played my 4 pieces and chatted a little bit, and that was it. It wasn't too high stress, which was really nice. So, and then for my drumline audition, that was during COVID. So I did have to do video submissions for that, but I think video submissions for auditions can be almost kind of a nice thing and a bad thing, because you're so critical of yourself in your videos. So sometimes you have to do more takes, but what's nice about videos is you can critique yourself, and like you can learn so much just from watching yourself. So that's really helpful with those video auditions as well.
Yeah, there you go. It's a nice practice habit too, as well, to record yourself and kind of have a look at that. Thank you for answering that. Does anyone else want to jump on that topic of auditions? We've all been through them many times now, having been in the studio. For those who don't know, there's auditions every semester. So
I think it's important not to freak out if you haven't chosen your rep yet, or you haven't decided that you're coming to the U, or you're still in the midst of deciding things. It is important to get on it like as soon as you can, as soon as you know, or maybe a little bit before you know, just in case. Because I was a little late to choosing things, and I was a little late to deciding that I wanted to come to the U. So I wouldn't say that I was amazingly prepared for my audition, but you know, I had a conversation with Doc during my audition and the grad student at the time, and it was like, how long have you been preparing this piece? Like a month I've been preparing this piece. Like, okay, like that makes sense, you know. So, you know, don't freak out, you know, be malleable, I think is the most important thing. And as much as you can prepare, do so, but no high stress.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Can I jump in real quick? I have something like really quick. Also, when you're trying to decide what you're picking, I would shoot for something that might be easier for you rather than something that you might have to like reach for with your technique to play. Because I think if I remember my audition correctly, and maybe Doc remembers, I kind of shot a little too high, and I honestly felt like I bombed my audition. Like I thought it was the worst audition that I had done. But like Preston was saying, okay, you know, but if you pick something a little lower level, not like super easy, but lower level that's comfortable for your technique, then they can really see your strengths. And that is something that I didn't do, and I wish I would have done.
That's really
I
good.
also have one thing to add, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So if I would recommend, I had the opportunity to take lessons at the U starting my sophomore year. So I got really familiar with the space itself and with the instruments, and I even got to meet some of the students before my audition. And so if anyone like ever gets the opportunity to take a lesson from someone in the studio or take a lesson from Salmons, I had even done that before my lesson, or just come up to the School of Music and see our percussion room and get familiar with an audition space. I think that's really helpful. So then when you get in that situation, you're like, this isn't brand new to me and freaking out. It just kind of helps you calm down a little bit.
Awesome.
Can I chime in on that?
Love it.
Yeah. All right. So we're very quickly. Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a first year here at the U, and I'm an out-of-state student. So a big thing about the out-of-state thing is that you can start to feel intimidated by not being in the U all your life. And one thing that I really want to get across is that it's not abnormal to contact professors before your audition process. Like, it's almost recommended. Like, if you can get in, you can contact your professors, start to understand what their philosophies and goals for students at the U is, then you will be setting yourself up for a lot more success than not doing that in the first place.
Awesome. Thank you.
I second.
I'll hop in and say I'm always happy to answer emails, or there's a lot of information on the website about what pieces to choose and play. But if anybody ever has a question, just email me your rep, say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about playing. And I'll always respond, say, cool. Or maybe, maybe think about this or that. So, and to follow up on Olivia's conversation, the most important thing for the faculty, myself mostly, is that we want you to feel comfortable. So we want you to play your best. And as far as the repertoire, we want you to be an artist. We want you to be able to play with dynamics and phrasing and great feel and great touch. And so Olivia's point is really, really important, because if you're struggling to play something, it's really, really hard and maybe lofty. I think that's a good word, lofty. And you don't have enough time, then you may not be able to play with your usual musicianship and artistry, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I would just say lastly that more than anything, what we listen for is potential. It's not really about where somebody's at the moment. It's about where I feel they can be with some instruction. Some people have never had formal lessons. Some people have. And so you get a feel for that in talking to people in the interview process. And and that all adds up. So it's not just about the playing, if I could just say that.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that too, because if I can chime in very shortly with my thoughts, is that if I learned anything from the ongoing audition process here at the U, it's that the faculty and really everyone here on the studio wants to see you succeed, and they just want to see effort, and so like things like watching this live stream, learning from that, and preparing beforehand are the type of effort that everyone's looking for. I really appreciate all the feedback there on that question. That was really, really helpful. And since we've talked a lot about it, I kind of want to take this to the panel. The question that we had was choosing rep or pieces to play. And we've had a very unique semester this semester with we're not going to have a live concert, but we're rather going to have a pre-recorded, then released concert. And most of us chose our own rep. And so I kind of wanted to take it out to us as students first on how we chose that rep. And then after that, I'd like to take it to Dr. Salmons and ask him about how he chooses our large ensemble repertoire. So yeah, I think, Michael, do you want to start us off with that?
Yeah, sure. Choosing your repertoire for lessons. Let's start with that. Solo repertoire for snare drum, mallets, and in your timpani semester, you're going to pick timpani solos as well. The process typically goes as follows, as I've seen. Usually you, as the individual, goes and looks up a lot of different pieces that you're interested in playing. You compile kind of a list. And I try to choose ones that are on all ends of the spectrum of my playing, ones that would be easy for me to play and ones that would be like really challenging, and even ones that isolate specific areas of my playing that I think are either weak or strong. And then I create a compiled list and send it to my teacher and say, hey, these are the kinds of things I'm playing. Which of these do you think would be good for me this semester? Which of these do you think I might want to wait for another semester? Or which of these do you just not like at all? And I know what Dr. Salmons is thinking right now. I know exactly what he's thinking. But when your teacher's going to respond and say, hey, this one's great, this one's not, this one maybe another time. And slowly back and forth, you whittle it down to a specific piece you're going to play for that semester. And it's really going to vary on the semester. The earlier semesters, you're probably going to pick a lot of pieces that challenge you technique-wise. You're going to have to do a lot of grinding work to get your technique up to a playable area for that piece, but it's not going to be terribly challenging in terms of maybe musicality. And then as you advance in your curriculum, you'll probably get a lot more challenging literature musically, and that your technique will be able to take care of itself, assuming that you're maintaining it. And you're going to be able to shift a lot of your focus towards developing musical aspects of those pieces. So it really depends on the semester you are here, what year you are, but generally it's up to you. The teacher isn't going to say no, absolutely not, very often.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks for that. Anyone else want to jump in on that real quick before we go to Doc?
I can hop in really fast. One thing that I think is really important is that picking repertoire that's fun for you, especially in percussion ensemble and in soloistic formats. You want to make sure you're doing something that you can enjoy as a performer, not only for the listener, because as artists, we have to do something we enjoy or else we won't get the musicality out of it in the first place.
Yeah, and to add on that, I think your body and your mind will tell you that. Like if you're practicing a piece, like yourself will tell you, yeah, this is not right. Because there's a marimba piece that I'm performing on my recital this semester that I was going to do a couple years ago, and I was practicing it and trying to practice it, and my hands, my mind, whatever was like, this is not right, at least right now. And now I love the piece and I love practicing it. I love performing it and it's great. I just wasn't ready for it. And myself told me that.
That's cool. That's really cool feedback there. Awesome. So, Doc, how do you pick ensemble repertoire for our large ensembles?
Well, I think it's a collaborative effort, like you've heard. But so for instance, our concert in the fall is normally programmed by the studio, and I think that's been a great aspect of the program the last couple of years, especially. And I trust the studio to pick artistic things, and we have those conversations and fun things and things that are going to challenge them technically sometimes, maybe things that are going to challenge them musically sometimes, and just sort of put it all together. But I think it's a pretty collaborative process. As far as the big stuff, I typically do program that, and you hear something cool, or you go to PASIC, or you're like, oh, that's a cool piece, or I have a kind of a list of composers that I like, and probably a list of music that I want to play that I'll probably never play. It'll take me a whole lifetime to play, but I think that's a good problem. It means you like a lot of stuff, and you're interested, and you're curious, and you're always learning. And so I'm always learning new repertoire. It's probably one of the biggest aspects of my job is to stay on it. And we've commissioned some works too, and that's fun when you find a really great composer and you say, hey, will you write me a piece, or will you write the studio a piece? And so, yeah, that's kind of the way it works. But we all work together. They had it right,
Collaborative effort.
Yeah, collaborative effort.
Yeah, there we go. Back to that theme again. Everyone wants to help each other succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a really interesting thought. I thought I'd share a snippet of the beginning of our semester, just back at the beginning in August when we were deciding the repertoire that we're going to be playing on our virtual concert. And I thought this is a great way to explain to everybody out there how we do it. And we all met together, and Dr. Salmon said, all right, it's up to you. You're going to create and form your own groups and select the repertoire, and we'll meet back in a week and we'll see what you have. And it was literally that simple. It was that open-minded. There was no wrong suggestion when we met back in a week. There was a little bit of tweaking we did just to form the right amounts of groups and to make sure that everybody, gets to play in something. But in terms of what we each brought to the table, there was no, why on earth would you choose that? It was all, oh yeah, this is a great selection. Yeah. Or this is good, but this piece is really well suited for, 4 people. This one's only for 3 and we need somebody else to play on this. So how about this? And it was just a lot of back and forth suggesting and thinking of pieces until we all came to a consensus on what we thought was good. So when Dr. Salmon says that it's a collaborative effort, it is 110% collaborative. It is all on us collectively with him and even other members of the faculty. The communication level here at the University of Utah is, I think, one of the most amazing things in the percussion studio.
And also going off of that, another example is when you're a sophomore, your 4th semester at the studio, you do a sophomore barrier, and you have to choose your repertoire for it. And so during the summer, I, started looking at pieces, what I wanted to play. And then Doc and we talked on the phone and we went through what I had planned. And yeah, we tweaked a few things maybe here and there. And he helped me decide on what would probably fit me better as a player. But for the majority, I think I chose like my whole set of everything I was going to play. So it is a very much, as a student, you choose what you want to play and you have a huge say in what it is.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you everyone for jumping in with that. It's much appreciated. And so the next question that we come to is a bit of a introspective question that I'd kind of like to hear about from everyone. And it was asked, if you were able to go back and tell yourself some advice, your senior year of high school self, what would you tell yourself? I know we've kind of talked about some other advice already, but you specifically, those kind of background stories. Any thoughts from anyone?
I think I might speak for everyone when I say that I would tell myself that to just practice more. Because, oh my God, I had so much time in high school when I thought I didn't. and I'm sure I'm going to think the same thing in a couple years about now, but like I just sat on my butt all day and did nothing. Yeah.
Everybody say
And
hi
also-
to Keith Carrick.
Hello, Keith.
What's up? Sorry, I saw this. I was like, yeah, you're in the middle of things.
Sorry, Preston. Keep going. We're almost done.
You're good. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
more
I know,
practice.
man.
And
We get in the,
I would probably tell myself that's not how you hold Steven's grip. But yeah.
Hey, you just give yourself a private lesson is what you do. Is what you're telling me.
take that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The camera's over there.
Yeah.
I'll jump in.
There we go.
Oh, go for it.
I hate that I'm saying this advice because it's exactly what Professor Salmons was telling me my whole freshman year. And I just was like, nah, I'm not afraid of that. Nah, I'm not afraid of that. But I was so afraid of failure. And you don't have to be afraid of failure. Like we've said so many times, the faculty is here to help you succeed. And if you get into the studio, then you get into the studio and you're already here and they're committed to helping you succeed. And if you don't get into the studio your first try, they're still there to help you succeed. And I think once you start looking at your weaknesses and your failure as a starting point instead of an obstacle, that's when you really succeed. And that's probably my biggest thing. I also would just say practice more, just like Preston said. Something that Keith Carrick said in one of his interviews that we did was that there's no such thing as a starving artist, because anybody who works hard enough at something that they love to do and want to be successful at will succeed. And that's totally true. You just have to work really hard and it'll work out for you. If you love it enough to work hard at it, whether it be music, whether it be whatever, then you'll succeed at it and you don't have to be afraid.
Very cool. Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in on that one?
I can jump in on this one. So I'd say for me would also be to practice more, but also just to enjoy like where you're at in high school. Because I feel like a lot of my time, and especially my senior year, I was so worried about like my audition pieces and focusing so much on those and just being like, oh, I just want to be in college already and I just want to leave high school and just finally be there. And then, I mean, at least for me, all of a sudden my senior year was cut short from me. So I think just really enjoy like all of your marching band competitions, all of your percussion ensemble concerts, and just like being with your high school friends, because you'll like never get those moments back. So yes, like be super excited for college. It's awesome, but also just enjoy where you're at as well.
Can I hop in on that too and say enjoy college too, because you'll never have, I know Keith probably feels the same way. You never had more time than you had in college, and when you get out of college, it goes by pretty quick too, and life starts to happen and all sorts of things. So that's a really important thing. That's a great point, Maddie, too. So thanks for that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this has been a question I've asked myself probably like every other month for the last several years, thinking, man, what would I have done differently? And the thing that always comes back to me is when I was in high school, I practiced a lot. I practiced really hard. But one of the things I didn't realize is that I wasn't necessarily practicing smart. And practicing smart may sound kind of like a weird concept to you, but it's something that with the time constraints of jumping from college to from high school to college, and then from college beyond, you're going to be running into less and less time. So you need to be more efficient with your practice time. And that's something I would have definitely loved to teach myself in high school, because I didn't really understand how to practice smart. And that it implies that it's not just doing things you maybe don't want to do, right? Like practicing that one measure you've been avoiding, but also practicing the order in which you practice measures in a piece, or even practicing at the right tempo is not always slow, sometimes faster. And those kinds of concepts that I wished I had gotten through to myself. I know teachers had told me about how to practice smart, but I mean, it didn't really stick. And I wish I'd known how to make that stick to myself in order to make myself a better practicer in high school so that I had less ground to cover when I came right into college.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Anyone else have past self-advice?
Yes, I do. One of the biggest things for me, especially this summer, was that I really tended to overthink what the college life would be. Like if I had to go back and tell myself something, it'd just be stop, breathe, and stop thinking too hard, right? Because the big thing going from high school to college is that there's a lot of unknown territory that you don't really know how to get into until you're in the thick of it. And especially for a percussion student here, it could be intimidating. You might have to think, I have to do all these things before I get there so I can get on the right track to be successful. But the reality is that's hole 17 and we haven't even gotten past the first hole yet. So the big thing is just don't overthink it, take it one slice at a time, and just be able to really appreciate why you're doing it in the first place.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for that. So I think we've all answered our advice there. And Keith, since you've joined us, I want to throw in an extracurricular question because Olivia mentioned it a little bit, but you know, when I told people that I wanted to major in music, something that I used to hear a lot of time from band directors and instructors was that the difference between a piece of pizza or a slice of pizza and a musician is one can feed a family, right? And Olivia mentioned how you said there is no such thing as a starving musician, and I'm wondering if you're okay with sharing with us background a little bit of that.
This is probably the biggest question a lot of high schoolers are facing, and even some people in college, even some people out of college. So what I mean by that, right? Yeah. What I mean by that is that, and if you want to be successful at anything in your life, you're gonna have to work really hard at it. That's the case. It's not like you go to med school and it's a walk in the park. Okay. So when you come to music school, if you really love music, you'll work hard at it, you know? And at least in my experience, people spend their time doing the things that they value. So if you really like music, you'll spend your time working on it and you'll be successful at it. Now, there are people that I know that I was in school with who eventually decided to transition out of music. That is absolutely true. But they're all very successful. I mean, they all went on to be doctors and lawyers and scientists and things because when they were in music school with me, they built these skills. Like they knew what it meant to get up early and go down and really work hard. You know, they learned how to like be methodical with their practice session. They were thinking about goals and setting up how they're going to get and reach those goals. And when you learn all of those skills, it doesn't matter like what you end up doing with your life, you're going to be successful at it. You will be successful. And that's why I don't know any artists that are starving. They are all either succeeding in music and making a life out of it, or they've transitioned to someplace else and they're very successful in that life too. So I don't see this as a big risk. I think that if you want to do music, you should do music. You know, I don't think there's really a downside. If you come out of this school with those skills that I talk about, it won't matter. Even if you end up, you know, not feeling like you've reached success in music. And success, right, that's an opinion, first of all. That's in the eye of the beholder. Even if you decide to do something else, you're going to be just fine. It's not going to be a problem. And that's what I mean by that. So I think you just need to be fearless. If you love music, just jump in. I think you should jump in and do it. And I will say one more thing. Sometimes people go into music and they say, well, I'm going to go into music ed because that opens this other door for me. You should only do music ed if you want to teach music, right? You shouldn't do music ed because it's, quote, easier or gives you more job opportunities. That is not true. So I think, you know, if you want to teach music, do music ed. If you want to play music, do music performance. And don't be afraid, like we just have this stigma in our society that somehow artists aren't well paid or aren't successful. And that is not true. There's plenty of, you know, I know a lot of very successful artists that you know, have families and have good lives.
I'd also too say that Ashton, that one of the things I'm most proud of here. I mean, yes, you come to study music for the intrinsic value. We have a lot of great collaborative work that we do here in the studio. But at the end of the day, you're getting a degree, and so you're looking for a career in the field, in the arts. And I'm really proud to say that we have, like, I think almost 100%, but like 99% career placement in the field for our graduates that are making a living full time in percussion and music. Some of them are composing, some of them are doing audio engineering, some of them are doing the high school band director thing. They're doing percussion specialists, whatever it is. But they're all in the field full time, making a living in the field. So we have a tremendous track record here at the U, and I think that speaks to the quality of the faculty. I think that speaks to the diversity of the curriculum, and I think it speaks to the standard that we have. So I would just throw that out there. And I think the other thing too is music is the careers in music are more diverse and more open than ever. You don't need to, go through a CD label company to get your music out there anymore. You don't need to, those barriers are just not there anymore. And I think one of the things that I said to the studio, like first day of the semester this year, even with COVID, was like, hey, in many ways, there's never been a better time to get in, and an easier path to showcase your musicianship and your artistry and what you're creating. And there's all kinds of different paths in music. They're just so diverse, and it's getting more and more diverse. So, I think that's something that we do really well here. So.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I feel like the overarching message that we're hearing there is, well, one of them at least, is the passion, having the passion for your project, for your art, for whatever it is. Because if you decide to come do music and you have a passion for it, you'll succeed. So thank you for answering that question. We're coming pretty close to our end here. I just wanted to open it up one more time. If there's any other advice or anything that the panel feels like we should mention that we haven't mentioned yet, just before we finish up this live stream. So is there any more comments that we have from any of us?
I'm not sure sorry. I'm not sure we mentioned the audition results. Like, how does results work in terms of chair, no chair?
Oh, yeah. Well, you want to get us?
Yeah, I'll speak on that. So usually the results end with you get placed in a band or in percussion ensemble, usually both if you're a major.
Don't forget about orchestra.
Yeah, band, orchestra, percussion ensemble, all the works. Yeah, usually if you're in a wind ensemble or in a band, you're not also in an orchestra. You're either in one or the other, and you're in percussion ensemble. In terms of chairs, someone asked about chairs. We don't really have chairs. It's like usually like there's a timpanist, and then the rest are percussionists, and then there's there's a kind of like a first chair percussionist, like they're like the section leader, and then like that's it. Everybody else is like same level for ensembles, and then parts are just divvied out by either Dr. Salmons or the director of the band or orchestra, or by the head of the section at that point.
Awesome. Thanks for catching that for us. Anything else? Cool. Well, I think we've covered what we wanted to.
Wait, I'm so sorry.
Oh, man.
I just want to say, if it's too scary for you to reach out to Dr. Salmons or any of the other faculty, I can speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure I can speak for anybody else, that you can reach out to any of us if you have any questions, or if you're like, I'm thinking about the U, but I'm afraid of like this and this and this. How did you overcome that? None of us are going to bite your head off. It's going to be fine. And yeah, I'd be totally happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure anybody else would too.
Yeah, except Olivia, she'll bite your head off.
Ashton,
Even if you steal my bongos and don't put them back.
how would somebody do that? Just email the I guess the Facebook page or the Instagram, leave a message. What's the best way to do
maybe you can email or just like message on Facebook or Instagram or
All of our Instagrams. All of our Instagrams should be tagged in some post somewhere at some point. So find our face on the Instagram page and our tag should be there.
Also, our social media. If people wanted to reach out to the University of Utah Percussion social media, like Facebook or Instagram, that doesn't mean it's directly going to Dr. Salmons. It could be going to a student, and so that's also an easy way to reach out.
Yeah, and even like, if you have a lot of questions and, you want another student to answer them, you don't know how to get in hold of them or anything like that, just email Dr. Salmons himself and be like, hey, do you have a student who would be able to give me advice on X or be able to help me to prepare for the audition that's coming in February? He would be happy to suggest one of us and provide contact information for that. Like, we're here to help you. Like, I think one of the biggest things we really haven't touched on is the culture of the studio. And it's not a word we use lightly. There isn't a person in this studio who isn't like best friends with everybody else. We spend, with the exception of, this semester being a lot more distanced and isolated, we spend a good deal of our time together. And a lot of that time is connecting. We play together, heck, we eat together sometimes. And it's a lot of hard work, but I don't think anybody, even especially the people on this Zoom call, would say that it's not a lot of fun. Everything about it is so much more fun than I could have imagined before I came here. And I really wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. So if you have any questions, you really don't need to be worried about emailing anybody or messaging anyone. We won't bite your head off, like Olivia said, unless we steal your bongos or whatever that was. But just relax. Hit us up.
Yeah, I agree with Michael. When I was trying to figure out which college I wanted to go to, where I wanted to study, and what I wanted to study, I didn't even know anything about the University of Utah because I'm from Texas. And I reached out to Dr. Salmons, and he just gave me a whole bunch of information. He called me personally. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to go to the U, because it wasn't like, oh, we're doing you a favor by accepting you here. It's here at the University of Utah. It's no, we want you here, especially if you are passionate about what you do and passionate about music, then the studio can use you. You can be an asset to our program, and they allow you to feel that. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to go to the U in the first place, just because I felt like I could I could help it grow. I could be I don't know how to say it. I forgot the word. But yeah, it's a very welcoming place.
Absolutely. The culture here is amazing. Everyone's super close and super helpful. And as you can tell, everyone feels free sharing their thoughts. So,
Ashton?
Yeah, go for it.
I have to go teach, buddy.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up. Thanks for joining us today on our little live stream. And we look forward to hearing from you. And
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Feel free to reach out, okay? See you soon.